Okay, so today I'm going to be talking to Lia Hide. Hi, Lia. It's good to see you. Can you hear me all right?
Good to see you. Yes, I can hear you perfectly.
Cool, excellent stuff. And I'm assuming the sun is shining there, is it?
Oh, it finally is fantastic. We had a horrible winter, lots of snow, lots of rain, almost blizzards and tornadoes in Athens, which is not very common for us. Yes. Yes. Heavy winter. And finally, we had 2 days in a row of sunshine. I was watching all of you in London, spending amazing days out in the sun in the parks, which I love. And we were stuck in this horrid rain. And finally, we are enjoying some spring. We'll see. People are already going to the beaches because we missed it. The quarantine is semi-over, or hoping it is. So I think we're going to have a nice summer after all. We'll see.
Yeah, cool. So look, I've got a traditional first question, which is, apart from asking about the weather, what do you do?
At the moment, or in general?
In general.
Okay, I am I'm a singer-songwriter and a vocal teacher. That means I am not a voice coach. I teach singing as well as technique and vocal interpretation and various aspects of the vocal issue of modern vocals. And I'm also teaching songwriting, and I'm also teaching piano and modern music history, which means pop and rock music since the 30s. So these are how I make my living as a music teacher in general. And I am a singer, I am a keyboard player, very rusty viola player, an occasional bass player. And I hate the ukulele. I hate it. Ukulele, whatever. I have one, I hate it, I never use it.
Okay, all right.
I am terrible as well with a guitar. I've written lots of my songs with a guitar, but for some reason, this 6-string beast detests me and just crooks my fingers around. So, nah. So I could say I'm a multi-instrumentalist, although fundamentally I'm a piano player.
Okay, mind you, well, what's your take on writing, when you write songs? I'm assuming maybe that you...
What is my...
preferred instrument? I'm assuming the piano.
Well, not particularly. Anything could be functioning as a spark of a new song from I don't know, a dog barking outside the window, a loop that I heard I found on my door, or usually I write songs mostly on my bass or my guitar.
Oh, right, okay.
Not do that, but I do write songs on my guitar.
Yeah.
I'm not a very equipped player. I'm really horrible.
Well, here's
and the boys don't let me perform with my guitar.
Oh, okay, all right. But here's an interesting thing, because obviously, I teach a lot of songwriting and stuff, and it's always interesting when you look at really great songwriters. They're often not the sort of people that you would go, they are excellent guitar players. I mean, there's a few exceptions, obviously, but generally speaking, the really good songwriters tend to be the ones that, they're proficient on an instrument, but they're not virtuosos. And I think there is something in that thing. If you're really good on an instrument, it's actually really difficult to write a good song on it, because you just go down that thing of getting too technical about stuff really quickly. What do you think about that? Do you think it's easy writing, like you're saying, writing on a guitar?
Vic, do you play the guitar?
I do. I do, for my sins. Yes, I do play the guitar.
Okay. No pun intended, to any guitarist out there, or you,
Oh,
or
far
any
away.
other guitar players.
It's all right. It's okay.
Okay, guitar players are a very specific group of people for me, as also as a teacher, because I've had a lot of guitars in my class. So guitar players are a very let's say solo-centric instrument.
Yes.
In the way that this is how you are educated, and this is how the instrument functions greatly, and is more impressive in a way, and it's more deserving, more rewarding to the student and to the performer. It's an instrument that is more intended to be soloing. So as a mentality, I think this rarely can work together with the songwriter mentality, because they both strive for some attention. And the songwriter is going to work towards getting the attention of the listener with his words more, and his melodies more or less. Whereas the good guitar player wants to do this with a very virtuoso playing, or a unique style, or a unique sound. So I would say, let's have another example. I am a very well-trained classical pianist. I did this because I wanted to be a very good singer. And I understood that I needed the thorough knowledge of a good instrument to back me up, because singing is a very difficult thing to do. Like, we don't have keys to press and have perfect intonation and all that. And I wanted to be more of a musician rather than just a singer. So it's very difficult for me to write impressive passagios, like keyboard passagios on my songs, because I don't want to show off. And that's a thing I was taught as a classical musician, because being brought up as a classical musician, I learned to be humble, because I would never be as good as Rachmaninoff, and I would never be as good as Mozart. This is how piano players are educated in a way. Unless you're a child prodigy and you go to this contest and you win award after award, you're taught to be humble and to respect your little tiny little place in the universe. Guitar players, on the other hand, they are trained to strive to make their place there audible and great and bombastic. So I suppose this is why it happened.
Yes, I totally agree with you, because I have this conversation with kids who I teach who become really proficient, and obviously I teach from the perspective of being a musician instead of just being a guitar player. And my little pep talk for them, if they ever go to like a college or something like that, is on day one, you're going to meet, I call them the guitarist from hell, who is the person who seems to just be able to, the guitar ignites when they play. And I say, and you'll sit there and, you'll think, oh my God, And then the next day you'll see him and you'll think, yeah, he's quite good, this guy, isn't he? And then on day 3, you'll think, okay, does he do anything else? And then by then you'll get to the first project, and it might be, you're going to do this Aretha Franklin song. And at that point, this guy just falls apart because he can't do anything that moves outside of that genre of the guitar hero. And I really, this is why I asked you the question about writing from the guitar, because I think this is the problem that guitarists really have, where they can't disassociate and just, it's all about the song now, which means all your technical stuff, you can forget about that. You just get to the structure of the song, and what's the song beginning to tell you, and how do those lyrics work with this, and and all the rest of it. And it's got nothing to do with that clever little riff that you've got, or this great technique that you're going to throw in. So I think that's interesting. And you're saying about, being classically trained musician, the fact that a lot of the stuff with writing music, there's that sort of, the idea, I don't know how it comes for you, but for me, you get this idea of a song, and it sometimes comes in from a way that's not necessarily musical. You mentioned a dog barking. it could just be an idea that comes from somewhere that is, you know, and you've got to, it becomes musical, but the initial thing of it is not necessarily musical at all. It just could come from any quarter. I think you've got to sort of catch that somehow. So yeah, so I'm very interested in your answer then. So let's see. You obviously started learning.
We have amazing guitar players.
I know you do. We're going to get onto the Greek guitarists in a minute because they are incredibly good. I think it's only the English examiners who go out and sort of, you know, listen to the Greek candidates as they're sort of, and they're like, they always come back and go, oh my God, they're amazing. So yes, I know how good they are. But how did you start with music? I'm assuming you started quite young. You started quite young studying music, did you?
I heard that studying music. Okay, let's.
Yeah. Sorry, I know it keeps dropping out, isn't it? When did you start getting interested in music? Were you? I'm assuming you were very young.
Oh, music was always in the house. I suppose this is what all musicians say, but it probably is true. You get to be a musician if music is always in the house, and it's the way that you are brought up. My dad used to play the guitar, of course, in a band that was actually rather popular at the moment. He actually forced me into learning the guitar, which is probably why I hate it. I don't hate it, I just don't do good at it. And my mom would always sing. My grandpa was a blacksmith and a fisherman. And when he came home after work, he would play some bouzouki. And there was this funny thing. My parents had convinced me and my brother that the TV would function only during specific times in the day. So they would unplug it and would tell us that there's no TV, no more. I'm sorry, it died. That's it. So we would not watch TV late in the evening. We would not watch TV in the middle of the day. There were just a couple of hours that we could watch TV in the afternoon. And so we would listen mostly to the radio, or we would play and sing with my dad. And I always had that. So in a way, I was, one of those children who were very good in singing. So they would always get the solo part in the school choir. And I always was in tune, and I always was very charismatic in my musicianship, and my interpretation was always touching people. And I was a good singer since I was very young. And this is why I never wanted to study music. So instead, when I was young, I studied a little bit of theater. I was in a theatrical group since I was 8 years old until I was 14 years old. And then I was a little bit bored of theater. I still like to read and watch, but I didn't want to be an actress. And I understood that I wanted to go back and maybe study a little bit of music. There was an incident when I was very young. My parents took me to a very, very famous conservatory in Athens, and I was forced to choose an instrument of the orchestra. I always wanted to play the piano, but it was way too expensive for us to get, and the apartment would not fit a piano. So my dad tricked me into choosing any instrument from the orchestra, but not a cello, because he was told that we have a lot of cellists and a lot of piano players, so get her to choose something else. So I said, okay, can I have the saxophone? Because it was bright and gold and shiny. And they told me, the saxophone is not the proper instrument for a small girl. You will go and learn the bassoon instead. The bassoon, a little girl. So I got stuck with the bassoon. And unfortunately, I got stuck with a very bad human being as my teacher. I had one of these Me Too incidents. I was very young. So I was very driven away from music studies. It took me a long time to go back to music school. I started studying classical music when I was 19 years old or 20. And after I was already studying business administration, I missed it. I felt safe enough. I felt old enough. And I went back to school, to another music school, and I asked if I could learn the piano as quickly as possible. So I studied for a long time, for long days and hours, and I tried to catch up with all the proper education that I never had the choice of having. And I did it. I studied hard for 5 to 6 years, and I finished my bachelor's degree, my piano soloist diploma, my classical opera soloist diploma, my advanced harmony degree. I did all that because I am a very extreme person. I would do things always to the extreme, and I'm very stubborn as a Taurus. I'm a very, very stubborn person. So it was weird because music was always there, but I did not study until late. I studied because I wanted to be a professional music educator, and I did not want to earn my money otherwise. I felt very miserable looking towards a career in business administration. So it was, in a way, very, very rewarding for me because I was old. I got to support myself. I got to pay for my studies, and I appreciated every little book that I bought, every little seminar I attended. It was hard because I was working in the meantime and I was studying, but it was different. It wasn't one of these, I went to the music school since I was young and things developed slowly. Things developed abruptly, like major and little earthquakes.
Right. It's interesting because one of the things coming in,
it's different.
Sort of observing the Greeks from a distance, and their sort of the dedication that I've seen personally, and I'm not the only one that's seen this, comparing it to the type of things that we get in the UK, you actually put us to shame because you work incredibly hard, all of you, because there's a dedication to things. And I was always intrigued because I spoke, obviously I know Pandalise really well, but there was just a lot of people said the same thing. They would never talk about practice. They would talk about study. And I thought that was very interesting because it was like, no, they study the guitar or they study harmony. It's not just practicing the guitar. And there's something in that mentality that you've got to do, like you're saying, you got all of those qualifications and you worked obviously incredibly hard to do that. And I think that's something, I might say we've lost it here, but I don't see very much of it here. We've got quite a lot of lazy people, lazy musicians. And maybe that's just the way we are here, but I don't know. Do you think that's the thing?
I don't know. You see, no, I think Greeks, for starters, have many good things and many horrible things. Okay. Unfortunately, we were one of these nations. We were enslaved and did not pace up with Enlightenment or Renaissance or the Industrial Revolution. We were under occupation for centuries after centuries, which was a great plague on the psyche of the nation, because these are two very conflicting ideas. Greeks are very proud of their past,
yes,
but that past includes everything that happened prior to the Roman occupation. So that's very old, way back then. They tried to consider the Byzantine Empire as a Greek empire, which it wasn't. It was a continuation of the Roman Empire.
Well, they spoke Greek though.
To get. Well, there's a lot of Greek in all of that because the Romans were very, very respectful as occupants, and they respected the philosophy and all the sciences and all that. But
they stole it all
that's
from you,
one of
didn't they? They stole.
This is what happens when you are. Yes, but You know, this is understandable. I think that what the Romans did to the Greek ancient civilization was, let's say, an evolution of things, and they also spread it throughout entire
Yeah.
Europe as they were occupying
Yeah.
Europe all the way up. Whereas Christianity and what that did to ancient temples and books and all that, that was, you can, you know, civilization change and people respect or conquer or destroy. So I understand. The Greeks, though, have this thing. We are descendants of Plato and Aristotle and Socrates. But then again, we never knew what it meant to be in this marvelous time of the Renaissance and being enslaved for so many years, occupant after occupant. What it created is a very weird mentality that you either work very hard in order to break through and break free.
Yes.
And this is a mentality of the Greek immigrants that they fled Greece to different war zones and war times, or you get to be devious and you create schemes
Yes.
and you play wise guy,
Yeah.
and you team up with the occupant or the bad guys, and that happened throughout. I mean, think about Ephialtes, the guy who opened up the gate for Leonidas and they were massacred with the Persians. Think about World War II. The Greeks were starved to death, not because the Germans took all the food from them, because the Greeks who betrayed the Greeks gave the food to the Germans. So we have this series of betrayal and dictatorship and wise guys and traitors, and it's a very different thing. So the good guys who survive, we tend to be very hardworking, I suppose, because this is how we were brought up, or these are the examples we have. We believe in simplicity, we believe in humbleness, because this is what education does for you. And I don't think education is just when you go to the university.
No.
Education is when you respect your surroundings and nature and your resources, your fellow siblings, your human beings and animals next to you. So people who have thorough education and understanding of their place in the universe, these people tend to work hard because I think they want to leave their spot behind when they go to what is there after dying.
Yes.
The other people who are there to exploit and scam and scheme and all these things,
yes,
well, they don't want to work a lot.
No.
They want to lie, they want to steal.
Yes, they
so you might meet both Greeks, both good guys and bad guys. I suppose in all, as Brits, as Germans, as Italian,
well, I think what happens here is there's a sort of almost a counterplay to what you're saying. We've had it, I won't say we've had it pretty easy on many things, and we've been very fortunate, especially musically. We've had it a little bit easy. So if we're looking at it from the musical perspective, particularly with contemporary music, you know, that you can just get a bunch of guys get together and write some songs and they do all right, thank you very much. And there's loads of places to play. Even now, even though we've lost a lot of pubs and stuff like that, there's still loads of places to play. And we can play whatever we want. We don't have to, we haven't got a tourist industry that expects the music that's being played in places to be our English folk music, right? So, you know, we don't have any of that. If people turn up into a pub, they'll expect it to be whatever music the band want to play, not because they're going to be doing something that's traditional. We've got all of that. We haven't got to struggle to go to another country in order to make a name for ourselves. We can do it here, you know, and we don't realize how good that is. And subsequently, it makes a lot of us very lazy. I would say, in comparison.
I suppose so.
I really seriously mean that. and because you know, the musicianship is very high in your country, I would say. You know, even the guitarists, no, so seriously, the guitarists are really good. But there's a seriousness about the music, and a seriousness about the artistic expression of the music as well, I would say. Whereas there's a lot of technical stuff here, you know, and it gets a lot, and the artistic bit can get lost, but not always. There we go. So tell me about.
We do have a lot of garbage.
Yes, everywhere does. I'm sure you do, but there we go. Because obviously, a lot, you know, you're always going to get there. If you've got a lot of music happening, you're going to have some stuff you look at and you go, you know. So where did you? So you've done all this training, but I'm assuming that you've been performing, have you, while you were doing this, while you were doing all your studies?
Always. I've never stopped performing. I always.
So when did you start though? When did you start?
14 years old. My first.
Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you.
I started performing when I was 14 years old. No, it's okay. It was 14 years old, and there's a video of that first performance. I sang Nightmare by MSG, and I was wearing my 12-string guitar, the big beast, and I tried to do the ding 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 ding. Again, me with a guitar, and I tried to convince people that I hate it. Okay, so I started performing when I was 14. I've never stopped performing music, apart from that quarantine incident past 2 years. I've never ever stopped. And sometimes I say, and I try to terrorize my band, I quit, I've had it, it's too difficult, nothing is happening. And look at this, they're not paying attention, they don't listen to what we do. It's enough, I want to live my life and go on the beach like normal people and have a martini. I don't care about these. And they're like, okay, can I call you tomorrow? Will you still have the same ideas? By the same afternoon, I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. Let's go back to rehearsing. I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. So I've never stopped doing that. And if I sounded like I am a little bit attention seeking, I'm not. It's just that, you know, whatever every artist wants is a little bit of attention for what they're doing, because they're trying to interpret the world and they're trying to better the world. So if no one is looking at what they're creating, they feel very lonely and useless. So well, I've always been performing.
So that's interesting you're saying that, because I think that's something that a lot of artistic people have to deal with. Because when you create something, you've basically put your heart on a plate and presented it to somebody. And people say, don't like that, or that could be a little bit better if you did so and so. It is very painful. And it's very difficult to deal with that, I think. So I think many artists have strategies, or don't they, or ways of dealing with, you know, the negative opinions or reviews of music and everything. Have you got any sort of ways of dealing with stuff like that when you think, oh, nobody's listening to me? Or
well, we don't have negative reviews often, thank God. I think we're trying our best to provide, when we put out something, we make it our goal, and our aim is to create the best technically and professionally possible output. So there's rarely bad reviews. There are some opinions of people who think back in the day that some things were not mature enough, or that they were busy, or there were, you know, opinions, which I always respect. The bad review could not bring me down. Even if they said that I did something, I did not perform well, or that I did not dress up well, or that I had an attitude specifically or anything, that would never bring me down. What brings me down is professionals who deal with music as a means to get us as a musical, let's say, product to the public. So this has always crippled me. When I left EMI-Universal, where I was with my first album, I got severely bullied by one of our managers there, and it took me 2 years to rebound. I could not comprehend why would someone who is working in the music industry, who understands the struggles that a musician goes through, I could not comprehend why they would do this to me. So silly little me. As if all the stories about all this manipulation and all these tragic stories about rock stars and rock careers and pop idols were not already out there. I felt little princess here felt she was going to be treated differently with respect. So that was very traumatizing for me. We recently had another incident. We are dealing with a very problematic agency at the moment, and it still gets to me very much. I don't understand why people would exploit musicians who are struggling to become something. I would understand why you would exploit a famous musician who is already making a lot of money. I would understand how people would trick someone like Britney Spears, for instance, and all that story. And I'm so happy that she's finally free. I would understand that. But struggling musicians who are trying to make it, I mean, I sometimes I'm the most neglectful person when it comes to contracts and publishing rights and all these rights and all this. I mean, PRS and MCPS and PPL and all these agencies. I always do them last, or I forget to do them. I'm like, if someone wants to steal our music, good. Okay, steal it. It's music. Good. Make money out of us, whatever. But when people trick us and lie to us and scam, that's I still don't understand it. And I should sober up and remember that this is an industry and people are mistreated. I don't have any coping mechanism for that. I just cry, I get angry, and I meet with the band and I drink. That's my mechanism.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. Sounds like a strategy. Yeah, I'm quite interested by this because there's that thing of, when obviously I would say every musician starts, well, I say every musician, most musicians start music because that's what they love doing. And then it's a hobby and it becomes a business. And I think that always leaves people vulnerable to people who are working inside an industry that are there to make money. There's a problematic sort of boundary between the two. And I think that's the problem. I don't know, I haven't got any answers to this, I must say, but I think the thing is that I've seen a lot of people exploited, even at the beginning. You're saying, why would people do that? But I've seen it a lot. I've seen that thing of when you've virtually got the deal and it's on the table, and it's obvious that it's going to go ahead, and it just evaporates. And I've seen that happen. It happened to me. It's happened to a lot of other people. And you think, what's that about? God. Yeah, it's quite common. And I think the problem is it's now because music is it's everywhere, isn't it? Because I mean, if you go back in a little period of time, it was expensive to record anything. You couldn't record anything at home. You had to go to a studio. Now you could just record at home. So it means that many people can produce music. So it makes it sort of slight, I might say worthless, but you know what I mean? The supply and demand thing, you look at it that way. Mm-hmm. When I was thinking back to first single that I did, I mean, that was unusual at the time. And it was on vinyl, and we just got airplay everywhere. And it was like, it's only a small studio that did this thing. We did it all independently. And I think, well, I don't even know how easy that would be now, because you could get the stuff out there, but would the radio stations pick that up? Because how many, there's so many radio stations now, but they're not like the ones you want to get on. It's difficult. It's a difficult world for an artist, I think. Strangely, you can produce the art, but you can't get it to the people so easily. Anyway, I've just gone on a bit of a ramble, but I really get your point. So you mentioned EMI. You haven't said about how you got that deal. Tell me about that. Was that the first thing that you got record company interest was with them, EMI?
It was the first Lia Hide album. I was recording with many electronica producers and bands and projects beforehand. I started recording sometime around 2004, and my high school band, actually, we really had a very good deal back then when we were 19 years old. We had a demo that was recorded, multi-channel and everything, and we played on the famous rock station at the time, and we got a very good deal by a very, very good record label at the moment. But because we were young and foolish, the guitar player decided he wanted to be a psychologist and went to college, and the drummer decided he wanted to be a food technician and he went to Italy. Now they're back, both being the drummer is still our drummer and the guitar player is still a guitar player and not a psychologist, but we lost the momentum. So I went back to recording music as I was studying classical music around that time, which was very weird because my vocal teacher wanted me to sing Puccini and I would go back and sing Alice in Chains. So it was very weird vocally. So I started singing in records in 2004, and sometime around 2011, I wrote the piano parts for a very lovely record for a fellow songwriter. I had never considered releasing an album as a songwriter up until that date, because I thought that songwriting is such a sophisticated art that I should not touch it out of respect. And I thought that if I was ever to make an album, it would be with a band, because that was the only thing I knew. I was in band since I was walking, so I don't know, I would never be a solo artist, I thought. So when I went into the studio and recorded the piano parts and I went through the songs, I said, wait, these are the songs that songwriters do? I can do that. Why haven't I done that? I should do that. So I wrote my first album and I produced it myself. And it was one of the most expensive albums produced of that year in a very expensive studio. I was gathering that money for ages. And then I went and I said, boom, I have all that money. I want to learn how to produce an album. I want to sit on the soundboard. I want to make choices. Give me the space echo. I'll turn the knob myself until I'm satisfied. I did all the crazy stuff. And then when it was over, I searched and rang every phone that was to be called. I called every door. I banged on everyone's heads and mailed everyone, and no one accepted the album except from EMI. They were the only ones who took me in.
That's not bad.
They said it's difficult. Yeah, it was, but I didn't know at the moment it would be bad. I did not know. I was just, you know what big labels do? They might get 40 artists, hoping one of them might make it, and the rest of them are just liabilities and expenses in their bookkeeping. So I was just another entry of expenses in their bookkeeping, no interest, no bookings, no nothing, no attention, no publicity, no marketing, no interviews. So it was nice. I was into EMI-Universal. Nothing happened. We actually, now we are in very good terms. I am in very good terms with these people. When I left EMI, I still include them in my Wi-Fi password with nasty words included. So yeah,
Oh, that's good. So they've been
but now everyone knows my password. Okay.
No, but you know.
I promised myself the day that my contract was broken and we finalized things and I took back the CDs home, I promised myself I would post a specific Sex Pistols song. And I went home and I posted this. So, you know, there's a Sex Pistols song about EMI. So
yeah. Well, they certainly took EMI for a ride anyway. So that was, yeah. Yeah, that's really fascinating. See, you know, I don't know now. What do you reckon about the thing with record companies now? Because you know we're talking about you know you can do the stuff yourself, but it's getting it out there, isn't it? So what do you think is the future of that?
well, you can do the stuff yourself if you have funds. If you're rich, you can do anything. So we must not be hallucinating about things. This is a business, and this is a business environment, and this is a marketing run world, music, and it's a product that if you have the assets to market it, you don't need a label. If you do need a label only if you don't have the assets and you have friends in that label who are going to take care of you. So we tried doing things on our own with little labels helping us with distribution. It was okay. It wasn't impressive, but we would tour a lot. So we would sell all the albums and we would make ourselves known to each and every one of our fans, specifically and identically while we met them while on tour. This is one way of doing things. It's very costly and very time consuming, very true relationships, true fans, but it takes for ages. If you have the money, you just set up a campaign, flood Google with your face, and everyone knows you. If you don't, and you get a label to do that, then you are the luckiest person on earth. But labels, they some try. I don't understand the process of demo selection. Some of them, it's ridiculous how they even have a demo selection procedure without ever replying to the artist. So why receive demos if you're never going to tell that person even that they suck? Just go ahead and tell them you suck, we don't want you, I'm sorry. So I don't know what labels could do. We are very fortunate because our label right now, we are like friends. We are collaborating with Conchtown Records, who is in Miami, Florida. It's a small label. It has a few and very different artists. We're a crazy bunch. Matt, who owns the label, is a treasure of a human being. He's fantastic, and he inputs all his stamina, energy, love, affection into us. And this is rewarding, comforting. We're not superstars, but we're doing some things and we're getting noticed, or at least we know that we are in good hands and with, you know, sincere people who are ethical and true. So I don't know if only I always thought the problem in music is not labels, and it's not on the problem with music is in journalism. It's music journalism that first died as music labels were crippling down with that digital era thing. It was music journalism and PR and marketing in music that did the, you know, the destructive blow. When you don't have proper journalists who are paid to write a good review on purpose, and you don't have clear and proper reviews, you only have people who sponsor specific things, everything is in jeopardized. I mean, the quality of music out there is not okay. The quality of people who are promoted is not okay. Even back in the day, Robbie Williams, for instance, he really worked hard to do what he's doing right now. If I mention specific stars of today, you see them going up into stardom like this, and suddenly everyone is writing about them. All the articles think they are the next big thing. I'm sorry, there's a fly. Remember that incident when there were people who were talking badly about McCartney because Jay-Z said something about McCartney. And they were like, who is this McCartney? Does he know who Jay-Z is? He should shut up. And I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I know.
They would
It's
not
laughable.
be, yes.
It's laughable.
So I think this is journalists' fault. And actually the big magazines, they are hiring people who are not educated, they are not equipped, they are not aware, they don't know genre, they don't know style, they don't know history, they don't know vocabulary, and they go out and they write silly stuff. So we're flooded of music who has never been trimmed before it reaches our ears. It's just been promoted. So this is where the difficulty lies. The major, and I think this is the world issue as well, transparency in journalism, when it comes to war, when it comes to famine, when it comes to gas prices, when it comes to politics, and when it comes to music. If you buy the media, that's it. So right now the media is manipulated by people who don't care about music quality, they care about money.
Exactly. Don't know what the answer to that is either. So, some of the things you were saying there, because I've interviewed a couple of people who are journalists, and even the BBC, a couple of journalists from the BBC that I've interviewed, they don't work for the BBC anymore because they're sort of retired. But one of them was saying, the BBC was the place that you went to if you wanted to get in the news. He said, but I'm not so sure now. And that's coming from a BBC journalist. So I think there's a lot of somebody's paying the piper, if you see what I mean. Who's these people writing reviews? Who are they? As if a lot of them aren't independent. However, I did interview somebody a little while ago who's got a really good little radio station, radio program. It's actually to do with hospital radio. The radio stations in one of the big hospitals in England. And he has the most amazing artists on there. It just blows my mind. Every time he puts, his interviews on, it's like some old jazz player from New Orleans that he's managed to track down. Incredible. And it's, week after week, he just gets these amazing people on. So there are people out there doing incredible stuff, but you've got to find them. That's the trouble. Because social media and all the rest of it is absolutely awash with just nonsense. And it's difficult there's so much noise out there.
Yes.
And the other thing, talking about record labels, I interviewed Adele's guitarist, Ben Thomas, who has been with Adele from the very beginning. He was at college with her. And he was saying about, she was offered, I don't know how many record deals just before she left college, with all the big names, and she took the smallest label. She took the deal with the smallest label. Because of the control factor, which is what you're saying about, are you getting signed up as just one of a raft of people? And she obviously sussed that out. And, as I say, rest is history. But so it's interesting. So I was going to say the videos that you do for your recordings, they're brilliant. They're so well done.
Thank you.
And
thank you.
Do you have any say in those? Obviously, you've written the song, but I mean, when you get the ideas, yeah, because I was going to say they're really intriguing, and because that's always been one of the things I've thought about music videos. It's like, what's that got to do with the song? But your songs are. And the videos really work well together. So what's the process with that? What do you do?
Well, I am a horrible person to work with because I have a say in everything.
Okay, that's all right.
I
You're
am
the artist.
the legal department, the graphic department, the designer department of everything here. I even I even talked to all the photographers who are doing pictures for us and shootings and all that. I said, I'm doing the Photoshop. You just provide me with the pictures. I do it. So I am the editing department as well. So I came up with the idea with the boys of eating the books of Plato on our dinner video. We were very fortunate because we met along the way a fantastic filming team who are like an extension of our arms at the moment. We have an idea, we talk it over with them, they know exactly what to do, they are tireless, they are there, they are very convenient when it comes to money, and they help us very much. And they make all the effort to make things as easy as possible. We are just shooting a video the other week that's going to come out in September. We're filming for 2 days unstoppably. It's going to be a road trip. So we're filming. It was windy. It was blowing like hell. It was raining cats and dogs, and we were there filming on the car, on the back of the car, on top of the car, all these things. So we are very fortunate that we are working with Kiss the Frog, and this is the name of the filming company. We're very happy that dinner has received a couple of awards already. So this is going fantastic. And some other videos we shot before we met Kiss the Frog. I did the editing. I did the directing in a way. So I took all the footage and I edited and colored and trimmed and did the video. So Row 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 is, let's say, my direction. The video that's coming out in a couple of days is also going to be my direction. So I'm not a filmmaker. It's not that I don't trust people with our work. It's that you rarely find someone that has the same aesthetic or who doesn't want to compromise for specific things. So instead of compromising with things, I just take hold of them and fix them the way I want to. Otherwise, we would have some very ill-looking videos. I'm telling you, I see what people try to do with our stuff, and I get goosebumps. So I said, I'm going to learn how to edit film. I'm going to learn how to color film. Same way I learned how to use Photoshop. Same way I learned how to do most everything. So I'm not proud of it. I'd rather not do it. It's really costing me a lot of time and energy. But then again, if you say,
I think the results are good, because the point about this is there's always that thing. As soon as you go into a recording studio and somebody is involved in, it could be the engineer, it could be somebody who engineers but has got a bit of a can sort of produce things. There's that tension between what you see or hear in your head about what's going on in the song to what somebody is doing, and then of course when you start looking at videos then okay, if you've got a vision for the song, how does that vision play out? And again, that's another dilemma, isn't it? For artists. I mean, it's something that I've sort of looked at. I haven't had to do videos for years, so I've lost that. And even then, when we used to do things with like cable TV over here, somebody was doing all of that. So as long as you looked sort of reasonably okay and it was a gig situation or you were playing, but because you've got a particular sort of aesthetic about what you're doing with the song and how you portray yourself, I think you really do have to, do it, don't you? And again, it's a good skill to have, isn't it? Because you can edit videos for other people.
It is.
So So did you teach yourself?
I am very slow.
Well, you're obviously not that slow, are you?
It's very slow because I edit and I edit so many times. Like the video that's going to come in the 1st of June, which is the video for the song Niobe. We shot it last Easter, and I've been editing it for a year. I go back and I re-edit, and I don't like that specific little frame, so I will go back and edit that out, and again and again and again. So it's exactly the same thing I do with music as well. It's a very time-consuming process because I want everything to be perfect. Of course, there is a point where you say enough, let it go. It's not yours anymore. It has an identity of its own. Let it breathe. Let it go out there. But I want things to be as good as possible out of respect for the people who are going to listen to it, and out of respect for the love and affection we've shown for our work, for our songs, for the boys that play, for my songs, and for our production. Ian, who did the mixing. Ian must hate me by now. And Dennis, who did the mastering. I want everything to be perfect. This is, maybe that's bad. If I could just let go a little bit, we could be doing punk music. But I don't know. There's a lot of guitar in punk music, right?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, that's more my tradition. But yeah, I think that you're talking about punk. There's just as an interesting point here. In the UK, there was I'm quite near the Medway towns, so that's sort of south of London towards the river. And there was a very, very good music scene in the Medway towns, really good. And there's sort of a brand of sort of punk, sort of punky sort of new wave, which they call Medway Garage, because most of the songs were literally recorded live, and then just dumped the vocals over the top of it. And one of the studios that did this was at the bottom of somebody's garden. And they used to record a lot of bands like the Milkshakes, sort of Billy Childish's bands, Pop Rivets and stuff like that. And of course, they became quite big in Europe. So this guy was getting bands coming across from France and Belgium and Germany to record in this little studio that was literally in a shed at the bottom of his parents' garden, because that was where these bands were recording. And it's quite fascinating because we were recording there, you know, but I was doing more sort of like reggae, punk, fusion sort of stuff. And but I just thought then that was interesting that people were hearing that sound and going like that and going off and recording in a studio that you thought, well, there's nothing special. So yeah, there is something in that. So you've got a lot of stuff coming out that's due to come out now.
There's two videos coming up.
Yeah. So have you got any, are you doing any playing over this, you know, around Europe, or what's your plans for this one?
I think it's my fault. I was very afraid of contacting our bookers in Europe because I did not know what was going to happen with the COVID situation. And we were a little bit we delayed a bit contacting people. So we probably lost all there was to be about the summer. But we are playing in Athens in the 23rd of May. We are going to be the Jazz Plus participants of the International Jazz Festival, which is a very big European jazz festival. And we are selected to represent Greece as the Jazz Plus musicians. That means we have a little bit of jazz in our music, or something like that. We are jazzy in a way. So we're playing, it's a Monday, but it's one of the most beautiful stages we have, outdoor stages in Greece. There are some discussions about the major festivals that are happening in Athens, because we have a very busy festival lineup coming up. We are going to see, let's say, Muse, Silverhoyen, Madrugada, and lots of metal. Every metal band you imagine that exists is coming over. And then we have Pet Shop Boys, and we have Bauhaus, and that can dance. So everything is coming. That's a very exciting period. I want to go Nick Cave, but Nick Cave comes every summer, so it doesn't count. And lots of things. So there are, yeah.
He wants to get a bit of Greek sunshine.
Probably. He likes it. They all like it. I think they like it. Just, you know, in the summer everything's nice.
Oh,
and if you're not a Greek, if you're not a Greek citizen, it's great. If you're a Greek citizen, though, there are some complications like tax.
Yes.
And the cost of living.
Yes. I can imagine. Yeah. So that's great. Well, it's lovely chatting to you, Lia. And you wish you all the best for what you're doing. And
Thank you.
I'll get some links and stuff from you, and I'll put them in the show notes for people to check out what you're doing. All right. And yeah, it's good to chat. So see you again sometime.
Anytime. And I hope we share some points over there soon. I've missed coming over the channel. It's been so long.
I know.
Since 2019. It's been since 2019. Stupid quarantine has kept us locked here. So I can't wait to meet you up close.
Yes, it'd be nice. It'd be good to do. We'll see you again. So the details for Lia's material is on the show notes. The videos, as I said in the podcast, are stunningly good. The professional quality is amazing. In fact, they've won. I think the last one, which is the dinner, won an award recently. So check out that. And obviously check out all of the material. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube and stuff like that. So yeah, it's great. A couple of things that we're doing. We've still got some spaces for Blues Camp. There's only a couple though. Particularly interested in drummers. So we're all short of drummers. So there's a space or two there. And next year we are nearly sold out. It's a bit sort of weird that we've got a couple of spaces for this one, but next year we're virtually sold out. There's a lot of stuff about to come out. There's a book which is just the final edit, hopefully, final edit, is just happening now. The artwork's happening now as well. There's a big charity concert coming up in October for the Icaro charity. So that's getting people who can't afford to have lessons to have lessons for free, and also availability of instruments and all the rest of it. So that's quite an exciting project. Yeah, and if you want to support the podcast, obviously, if you listen to podcasts, every podcaster says this, but literally every little helps. Because it is quite expensive putting these things together, but great fun, actually, I must say. So I'm not really complaining. But if you'd like to help, there's a link to the Patreon, and there's a lot of interesting stuff that I do on the Patreon, which is using NLP and stuff like that to, increase your creativity. You could also get over things like phobias and all the rest of it with NLP. So I do stuff like that online, and just the sort of general teaching and all that sort of exciting stuff. So yeah, cool. So until next time, I'll see you then. Cheers. Bye.